All right, let's talk about Uriel. Now, this is not your typical Warframe where you just press a button and get a result. Oh no, he's an intricate, demonic engine of destruction. His real power? It's not in one single ability, it's in the absolutely brutal synergy he has with his demonic legion. We're going to learn how to build a literal cascade of hellfire.
So, meet the architect himself. I mean, look at these stats. The thing that should immediately jump out at you is that massive energy pool. 427 base energy? That isn't just a nice little bonus, my friend. That's the fuel tank. That's the core resource for the super ability intensive combat loop we're about to dive into. With Uriel, pretty much everything costs energy. And trust me, you're gonna need every last drop.
So here's our game plan. First, we're gonna dissect his core engine, what I call the demonic legion. Then we'll get into his abilities and see exactly how they fire up this infernal machine. After that, we'll check out his absolutely devastating ultimate, Brimstone, and finally, we'll forge 3 completely different endgame builds designed to crush any challenge you throw at them.
Okay, before we even think about his active abilities, we have to talk about his passive, the Legion. And look, this isn't some minor stat boost, this is the entire foundation of his kit. Everything Uriel does, and I mean everything, revolves around this system.
This diagram right here shows you exactly how the Legion works. You've got Uriel in the middle, and his 3 demons are tethered to him, staying within about 8 meters. But here's the kicker. Their engagement zone, the area where they'll automatically attack enemies, is a massive 30 meters. What does that mean for you? It means you have this powerful, autonomous zone of death that's constantly watching your back.
Now, these aren't just 3 generic goons. No way. Each one is a specialist with a very specific job. You've got Katanak, who's your crowd control expert. Then there's Gulfagor, he's your sustain engine, keeping you topped up on health and energy. And finally, Vithalas, who hands out some seriously powerful offensive buffs. And you'll notice each one is activated by a specific ability. It's like conducting a symphony of destruction.
All right, now it's time to unleash Uriel's active toolkit. But remember what I said, you can't think of these as standalone powers. They're commands. They're what you use to activate the unique functions of each of your demons. This is where the synergy really starts to pop off.
First up, we have Infernalis. A quick tap sends Uriel flying on wings of fire, which is cool, but the real showstopper here is Katanak. He immediately leaps into action, chaining up to 5 enemies together. Now get this, every single point of damage you deal to that main target is mirrored 100% to everyone else caught in that web. That's synergy in action right there.
Next up is Remedium, and this is basically your lifeline when things get hairy. Casting it gives you a quick moment of invulnerability and heals both you and your demons. It also orders Gulfagor to latch onto an enemy. As soon as you take that marked target down, you get rewarded with an absolute flood of health and energy orbs, which just fuels Uriel's relentless assault even more.
Demonium is the high-risk, high-reward play in Uriel's arsenal. You actually sacrifice a chunk of your demon's health to launch these projectiles that make enemies vulnerable. This also triggers Vithalas, who goes out and consumes the corpses of your enemies to generate these awesome demonium runes. Each one of those runes gives you a massive 30% boost to fire rate and heat damage. It just pushes your damage into a whole other league.
And now for the grand finale of this whole combat loop, Brimstone. This is it. This is where all the setup, all the synergy, it all comes together in one single cataclysmic explosion. Get ready for some serious devastation.
Okay, just look at this graph. It tells a story of pure exponential destruction. Brimstone is not a one-and-done ability. Its damage multiplier just skyrockets over 5 seconds. But here's the real twist. Uriel creates one field of fire, and each of his 3 demons creates another, identical overlapping field. That is 4 times the devastation, 4 times the area denial. It's insane.
That exponential growth caps out at a mind-blowing 10 times the base damage. Now imagine that, with 4 overlapping fields all hitting that 10x multiplier. This ability doesn't just damage enemies, it literally erases them from existence. This is the ultimate payoff for mastering his kit.
So we've gone through the theory, right? Now it's time to put it into practice. We're about to explore 3 totally distinct endgame architectures, builds that will push Aurelia's kit to its absolute limits. It's time to get into the forge.
So here's a quick look at our 3 build philosophies. First, you've got the level cap nuke, which is all about maximizing Brimstone's range to just wipe maps clean.
Then there's the hybrid platform, which creates this self-sustaining loop for infinite ability spam and huge weapon buffs. And for you real gearheads, we have Hellfire Armaments, a build designed to push your weapon damage to unbelievable heights by stacking multipliers.
Okay, first up, the nuke build. The strategy here is pretty simple. You pump everything you have into ability range, getting up to a wild 235%. This turns your 4 overlapping brimstone fields into a room-clearing apocalypse. Now to fuel this monster, we use the helmet system to swap his first ability for Nourish. Why? To make sure you never ever run out of energy.
Now, the hybrid platform is all about the loop. It's a beautiful thing. You use Remedium to force health and energy orbs to drop, and then the mod Equilibrium converts them back and forth. You basically create a perpetual motion machine of resources. This lets you spam all your abilities constantly, keeping those powerful demonium runes up for a permanent 90% weapon buff.
And finally, the most advanced build of the bunch, Hellfire Armaments. This one's for the real theory crafters out there. You stack insane amounts of strength and duration, and use the helmet ability Thermal Sunder to triple dip on damage multipliers. You're not just buffing your weapon anymore, you're creating this crazy exponential feedback loop that makes your heat damage over time effects just absolutely melt through everything.
So, you've mastered the abilities, you've forged your build, but to really become a master of the Cascade, you need the right tools for the job. So let's talk about the final pieces of this puzzle: Archon shards and, of course, weapons.
When it comes to Archon shards, those endgame stat boosters, the choice is really clear. You want to stack Crimson shards for ability strength and duration. It just makes your entire kit way more potent. For weapons, you've got to look for things that synergize with his buffs. The Kuva Sobek is a fantastic choice. It turns his heat bonuses into these devastating chain reaction explosions. Or you could go for a beam weapon like the Ukor, which becomes an absolute monster with that huge fire rate bonus from his demonium runes.
So what's the big takeaway here? Uriel is not a Warframe for the passive player. He's a complex instrument that demands you be aggressive with your resource management and strategic with your thinking. You have to be the conductor of this demonic orchestra, always thinking a few steps ahead to create that perfect storm of destruction. He's a challenge, for sure, but for anyone willing to master him, the reward is just absolute, unadulterated power. So the only question left is, are you ready to command the Legion and ignite the Cascade?